Good afternoon. Welcome to the tea party. I am so happy you've joined me on this gorgeous, sunny day, and I think I'll put my sunglasses on. We are going to call this our summertime tea party because the sun is out. My beautiful Queen Elizabeth roses. Oh my goodness, the smell is so wonderful. These are my two last roses for this bloom. And I chose a special vase. It's Czechoslovakian. I've rarely used this, but I thought for today, for the roses, they get the best. They are so gorgeous. And the scent is so rich. There were just two left, and then we'll get another bloom coming in maybe another week or so. They kind of bloom, I cut them, they come back. Well, I think I'll take my sunglasses off for now, but it's so fun to be able to wear them. And if you haven't gotten your tea yet, please pause and get your tea, and I'll be waiting for you. Well, I will show you what we have on the tea tray today. And it is a very festive, I'm calling it rose tea. And I wanted to also talk about how many different ways we can have a bouquet. And one of them is little odd-shaped jugs that we don't use, that we like the way they look. This is a milk jug of some type that I've never used, but for a vase. And the roses here, I apologize, these are at the end, but I've had them, in fact, they're shedding. I've got, if you could see, I've got beautiful rose petals on my table. And then this is another little shoe. Because my name is Shoemaker, over the years I've received a lot of shoes, and I love this little shoe, and I thought I can use that for a little vase on the tea tray. So the pot I have chosen today is beautiful garden flowers, and this is a little baby cup that I want to show you. It is so sweet. It's little. It's made to look like a rose or a flower. And if you look at the bottom of it, it has a little tiny, it's Bavarian. And somebody thought this up. It is lined with gold. So I'm going to, without any further ado, pour out. And it's not going to take much to fill this cup. Whoa. And then, because I'm in the pink and green theme, this is another little Bavarian creamer. Some people think if something breaks or something doesn't match, they get rid of it. I like a variety. This is a one and only little creamer. This is a one and only little cup. And this is a one and only little milk jug. Oh my, that is very tippy. Let's do that again. Okay, boy, that is maybe for looks only, but we're going to try to use it. Okay, we're not giving up, little cup. It looks so cute. Oh, my tea is so good today. I'm having brisk black British tea. It is said that tea is one of the most refreshing drinks on a hot day. Isn't that interesting? Even though it's hot, it's very refreshing. Very nice indeed. Now, the fruit that I brought today that is out is the wonderful, wonderful nectarines, and I'm sure you all love them. You know, they're a cross between a plum and a peach, but they really have the peach strong without the difficulty with the seed and the fuzz. And I love nectarines. And I thought that would be nice on the tea table today. And then, okay, I made something for you myself. I baked it, and it is very healthy. It looks like oatmeal cookies, which the basic recipe is, but I added so many things. I added coconut, a cup of walnuts, Rice Krispies, granola, flaxseed, and variety. And they are very delicious, and they're lovely with tea. You may have one. Okay. I wish there was a way I could have you all in person for a tea party. Maybe someday we will. I think I've got all of this showing now. Well, behind me, what gave me the idea to talk about, this is a milk jug. And it is something, we don't really use milk jugs in our world today. We could use them for lemonade or for water at the table, but it isn't often that we do that. And so I thought, I'm going to use it for my roses. And I have so enjoyed it out on my deck this week. So be creative. And it's interesting how just 2 roses can make a bouquet if you don't have a lot in your yard. And some people have these gardens that are never ending, and I love them. My garden comes and goes. I try to do my best. I try to feed them. I have a lot of shade. You can see behind you the big trees. They go up probably 100 feet. So I have a lot of shade, and I'm always dealing with that shade. And so I do have begonias and impatiens in the front. But I love my roses, and I've got them right out where the sun hits. Well, I thought this was a fun, it's black and white today, and this is a vintage old Coach bag that I've had. I just don't like discarding things. I love to keep them. And you know, the Coach bag, the Coach brand was one of the first considered real designer brands back in probably the 60s and the 70s, maybe earlier. It has cute things. It has, you could put your phone here and get it quick, or your car keys. And then it's a nice shoulder bag. And it's got the kind of straw looking cloth shoulder bag that makes it feel summery, doesn't it? And it can go all the way around and be a crossbody, so you don't have to, your hands are free. But you know, the Coach bags have a lifetime guarantee, and so you should never discard them, because I used to work years ago at Frederick & Nelson's downtown Seattle in the handbag department. And in those days, the Coach bag was one of the top bags. Now there are so many designer bags you can't keep up, but they were all made of real leather, and people would buy them and literally keep them for years because they were guaranteed for life. So this is a little more modern Coach bag, and I don't know if this is leather. It's probably vinyl, but it's fun. And then that's kind of casual. Well, this is casual too, but I love this little purse, and I thought this goes with my outfit today. Black and white. I was going down to the ocean, and it opens like this. And inside you can put, you know, a lipstick, a cell phone, and I see that I haven't used it since last summer, because guess what's in it? A mask. Thank God those are gone, right? Okay, now this time I'm going to get this off. Okay, and I'm wearing a black and white straw hat that is very comfortable, actually. It is so lightweight. I think I'll just put this over here. And these pillows I don't know if you can see them or not. I'm sitting behind one, or one is behind me, and then one is on this chair. And these pillows actually have parrots, and I love the bright color. Now I'll move this for a minute so you can really see it. I love color. I just have to have a lot of color around me, and it makes me happy. And color is free. You can have color however you like it, and don't be afraid to mix and match the colors, because in a way all the colors go together, you know. Look at nature for an example, and that's where so many people for so many years got all of their ideas for design, is from nature. And some of God's creation, like the leopard and the zebra, they're two color, or they look like two colors. But when you get close, it's like a piece of tweed. You see there's not just black and white on the leopard. The zebra. There's other tones in there, because nothing is as it always seems, you know, like Shakespeare said. And I was looking for a poem to read to you, and I thought I'm just going to quote one line from Shakespeare. A rose is a rose. You know, you just can't say any more than that. And God made the roses so beautifully. He made them for you and for me to enjoy, to have fragrance, to have beauty for the eye, and then there are uses. Natural vitamin, rose hips is a strong vitamin, and rose oil. There's always another dimension, and there's so many different kinds of roses. You know, this is the Queen Elizabeth. It's like a perfect rose. It's so big. I think they call it like a cabbage rose. And then you have the other roses. And there's many, many variety, and each one is special. And if you have a garden, I've turned the front, like kind of maybe the very front of our property is all roses. And I tried to get different colors, but somehow they all seem to be in the red and pink family. I need to get a yellow rose. I thought I had one, but it hasn't bloomed. In Victoria, BC, at the Butchart Gardens, they have the most beautiful rose garden, and it sits right by their little restaurant where you can have high tea. And it seems rose gardens are perfect for high tea, and they lend themselves to it. So if you ever go to the Butchart Gardens, hold out, don't have lunch, and have a high tea there. High tea there is like a lunch. It's a full meal. Sandwiches, scones, and little cakes, and wonderful tea. The tea in Canada is the best. I try to make my tea, I try to copy them, but I don't ever feel I'm hitting quite the mark the way the British Canadians in British Columbia can do it. But I'm going to keep trying. I'm not giving up, and I know my tea is good. And a lot of it has to do with the actual tea you use. Bulk tea is the strongest and the most flavorful. But then when you have the bulk tea, you have to deal with the tea leaves. However, some people use the tea leaves for their garden, and they say it keeps certain bugs away. They just pour them right on their plants or their flowers. The same with coffee grounds. Now, I don't know the full story of that, but it would be worth looking into. Well, what have you been doing this week? I've been enjoying the sun, and we have been eating on the deck at night, which is so nice. I notice I never have to turn my heater on. My butter is soft. There's a few things that tell me we're in the 70s here. When the butter is soft, you don't have to turn your heater on. you're not quite needing a fan yet. It's just perfect. It's in the 70s, right? And I'm not having to feel any need to put a jacket on or anything. In fact, I'm taking jackets off and trying to be cool in the afternoons. And we have a wonderful event in our town today and this weekend, and it's called Lake Fair. And for those of you who live in Washington State, you could come. It's at Capitol Lake, and it's beautiful. It sits right on the lake, all the rides, and it's not a huge, overwhelming like the Puyallup Fair. It's just booths and rides, and then you have this breeze coming off the lake, and the Capitol sits above the hill. And the other night we were walking, my husband and I, right before they were going to open. So it was all set up with no people, but the path is still open to walk the lake. And as we were walking, we saw the moon rise above the Capitol and above the lake with a little cloud on it, but it was a full moon. It was so gorgeous. And I tried to take a picture, but no camera can capture what God creates in the skies. I have it just touches it, but when your eye sees it, it is so much more. And then yesterday, a friend of mine had invited me. Her friend has a podcast, and so they interviewed me and my friend together. And that was fun, and we did it on a Zoom. And the lady was in Portland, my friend was in Squim, and I was here in my living room in Olympia. Isn't that amazing? That what can happen today with our phones and our Zooms and the YouTube, and oh my goodness, it takes our breath away. We are so blessed with so many ways of communicating, and it was very, very fun. Well, are you going somewhere special this summer for a little vacation, a little getaway? I hope so. I know that the last weekend of this month up in Enumclaw are the Scottish Highland Games. And I haven't been for a few years, but I would love to go to the Scottish Highland Games. It goes over, I believe it's Friday night, all day Saturday, Sunday, and then closes out. And the final event, they call the tattoo, the marching of all of the tribes and all the clans join up and march through and come into the stadium and play the bagpipes, and oh my goodness, it's beautiful. And they have wonderful dancing and competitions. They also have the sporting competitions. You know, they throw the hammer. My son did shot put. My son Gabe actually won first place in shot put in high school for the whole state of Washington and set a record. But they throw the hammer, they do the shot put, they do the discus, and little children and men and big men compete, and they give prizes. And that's why it's called the Highland Games. In the olden days, the Scottish people would come together in their community, and the test was who could throw the farthest. And then the bagpipes and the kilts. And if you're a little Scottish, you can find out your clan. There's all kinds of people there with information, and you can buy a little scarf or something with your tartan. It's a lot of fun, the Highland Games. And Ralph Monroe, a dear friend of ours, who was Secretary of State for almost 20 years in Washington State, has been quite a leader in that. And he led the whole group for many years. He led I don't know what they call the commander leading the tribes marching. And he lives just across the bay from us here. But Ralph, a wonderful person, just an ambassador of goodwill to everyone. When you go anywhere with Ralph, literally, he knows everyone, and everyone knows Ralph, and everyone thinks Ralph is their best friend. He's so kind. And he took our family once when our kids were young. We were called the Shoemaker Family Singers. And he gave us kilts. He and his wife had traveled around Scotland, and he collected a lot of kilts at maybe secondhand stores and whatever, and he gave me all these kilts. And he gave my husband a kilt, and I had a scarf, and my daughter had a kilt and a scarf, and he lined us up and we sang. We sang at the Highland Games. It was so fun, and I have pictures. And then Ralph was so kind, he took pictures that unbeknownst to us, and he gave me a whole framed epitaph of the event with our family. And my kids, I have 5 sons, all very athletic. They remember those games. They were little then. They would have ranged from probably age 12 down to about 4, because I have 5 sons. They remember, and they got to go and do the competitions and won some prizes, and it was a lot of fun. So I know that they haven't done it for 2 years because of COVID. It's going to be a special one this year. So if you live near there, have a chance to go, you won't be sorry. It does have a tendency to be hot, because usually that weekend is hot. So wear a straw hat and bring your water bottle, or make sure you stay hydrated. And come in the morning, because in the morning is when they do the Highland dance competition, and you watch these wonderful girls and young men and young women dancing. And oh, it's so beautiful. And did you know that all the steps of the Highland fling mean something? They hold their fingers like this. My daughter took Highland dance, actually both of them. And this is the deer. It's supposed to be the deer's antlers. And the Highland fling is called the dance of the deer. And if you watch them, they are so light-footed. They are just, their feet barely touch. And you know how a deer can just climb. And the deer was so important in all of Scottish, British, European history. You will always see a deer on almost every family crest. And that's because the deer was so important. They would use the deer hide for clothing. You know, Daniel Boone, that was deer skin that he wore when he came to America. And that came from, the idea came from Europe. They could eat the venison, delicious. And the deer is a kind animal and faithful. Kind of sad to kill the deer, isn't it? I always felt, ooh, how can... But the venison is very, very delicious and very healthy and very nutritious, because if you have cows and beef, you have to take care of them. It's a lot of work. And in the olden days, a cow was good for the milk. They didn't want to kill the cow. Well, they absolutely had to. They needed that milk, that butter, that cream, that cheese. So the milk, the cow, they didn't want to kill the cow. But the deer, that was really helpful to them. And that is why the deer is so honored. All through Norway, Scandinavia, Great Britain, Germany, Bavaria, France, all of those countries, you look at the family crests, they'll so often have a deer. And that's Highland fling is called the dance of the deer. Well, before I close, I'll tell you one other interesting thing about Highland dancing. My children had a teacher named Vivian. Vivian was 80 years old by the time my youngest daughter Elizabeth took dance from, she might have been 84 or 85 actually, and she was still teaching Highland dance. My older daughter Victoria had her like 10 years before. And Vivian was a champion. She was a little lady. She was only like 4'11", She had been a champion ice skater in Canada in her day and a champion dancer. She had won many prizes for Highland dance. And she told us the story. She said up until like 50 or maybe 70 years ago now it would be, Highland dance was all men. It's a very masculine dance. And they only recently let women into the dance competitions. And the other famous dance is the sword dance. And that goes back to King David. They trace the heritage of the Scottish sword dance back to King David when they crossed the swords and danced the dance before the battle to get their courage up, and then after the battle to give praise to God for winning the battle. So that's just a little story that I thought was fascinating. And when you talk to wonderful people that have been teachers like Vivian, she taught hundreds of kids, you can learn so much. So ask people questions about their craft, what they do, the history of it, and you will learn so much and you will feel so happy. And they'll feel so happy. They're passing it on, passing it on. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you've enjoyed this. And make sure that you get your roses or your flowers. And I've been putting them, I put them in lots of little vases too. Like I have 4 or 5 little gold vases. I just put a rose in each one and put them in the middle of the table with a big bouquet in the middle. It's fun. You can be as creative as you want. Use what you have. Use what you have, and it will multiply, and it will be a blessing to others. Well, God bless you. I pray you have a wonderful week. Go have fun, have a picnic, have a tea party, go outside, and join with good friends. And I will look forward to seeing you next time.